Good morning, guys, and welcome to my video, of course, for K Days or K Diaries here. Welcome to the World Grand Prix Darts 2025 Day 2 predictions, odds, betting tips, accas, and order of play and TV times. So, Day 1 produced some magical darts. We saw Luke Humphries putting a great performance against Nathan Aspinall, taking out 2+ checkouts along the way. Joe Cullen knocked out James Wade. Chris Dobie knocked out by Cameron Menzies, and Gary Anderson scraped through. Stephen Bunting put a fantastic performance. Will we see the same tonight? We'll just wait and see. First up, Damon Hatter versus Luke Woodhouse. The last time these two met in the major, where Luke Woodhouse became the internet sensation, the greatest celebrations ever to an opponent hitting a 9-dart finish. The sporting god smiled fondly on his act and generally sportsman that day by helping him pulled off a superb win, and he'll be fairly confident mood about repeating the trick in Leicester, after recently reaching his first European Tour final, which he lost to Stephen Bunting. Before you get into the YouTube channel, please hit the unsubscribe button. Damon Hatter has also enjoyed a decent season with a couple of titles and could have even made that free had he fallen short against Wessel Nyman in the Players' Championship final last week. So, however, the Aussie has suffered first round defeats in each of his 4 appearances here. He will need his starting doubles to be as clinical as his impressive checkouts this season if he is to buckle that trend. And I'm going for Damon Hatter to win by 2-1. Next up, Ross Smith versus Daryl Gurney. Ross Smith is known for his maximum hitting than his doubling, but 12 months ago he joined an elite group of 9 players who have managed a 100+ average at double start, and 101.79 he managed against Gian Van Veen was not to be repeated, as he was predominantly beaten by Johnny Clayton in round 2, which much more human in the mid-80s average. At least he knows he can produce high levels in this format. He's never lost in the first round in 4 previous meet appearances here, and arrives here with plenty of reasons to feel that he can go further than ever. On his last appearance on TV in the World Series finals, he averaged 106 and he narrow 10-8 defeat to Luke Littler, and since then he's exceeded 100 in 6 of those next 13 games, including 104.32 in the Players' Championship final victory. 104.32 in the Players' Championship final victory over Josh Rock. Daryl Gurney knows what it takes to win this competition, having done so back in 2017. Beating Adrian Lewis, Joe Cullen, Robert Thornton, John Henderson, and then beat Simon Whitlock in the final. But he's not operating at Smith's levels right now in any key statistic list about all the results form. So I expected the Englishman to progress. I'm going for Ross Smith to win, and I hate most 180s. I think Smith will have enough to win this by 2-1. And then next up, Johnny Clayton versus Andrew Gilding. Johnny Clayton has enjoyed a resurgence on the big stage this season. He's certainly on my radar to challenge for his 2nd World Grand Prix title, as well as finishing runner-up at the World Masters, which he went right down to the wire against Luke Humphries. He's reached 2 semi-finals at the UK Open and the World Match Play, where he was eventually beaten 2018 by James Wade in an all-time epic. Of course, James Wade, 2-time World Grand Prix champion, of course, beating Terry Jenkins in 2007 and Adrian Lewis in 2010. Right, so Clayton lifted this trophy during his golden year of 2021. Also has a decent quarter-final run here 12 months ago, which he fell too short to Coolhan. The Welshman has picked up a couple of titles this season, including one on the European Tour, while his consistently impressive numbers means his average of 99.14 suits the start of July puts him inside the top 4 We can't underestimate Andrew Gilding based off his mediocre seasonal stats, because he's produced quite brilliant darts at the World Match Play, where he was eventually beaten by Luke Littler in a Keenly contest quarter-final. However, the ferret has too much going in his favour. He should be strong enough to avoid any scares. I'm going for Clayton to win 2-0 and to hit the most 180s at evens money. Right, fourth up, Gerwyn Price will face Ryan Joyce. Gerwyn Price has a phenomenal double start record in recent times, and he will take some stopping this week. The Iceman won this event in 2020 before reaching two further finals in 2021 and 2023. Neither side of a semi-final run, so there is clearly nothing about this format that fazed him. On top of this, Price have enjoyed another superb season with 7 titles to his name across the European Tour, World Series and Players' Championships, while he's also reached the semi-finals of the Premier League and the World Series of Darts finals. Statistically, his average of 98.51 since the start of July. He's in the top 5 on the Tour, although his healthily finishing of 42% is outside the top 10. I think it's more than fair to say that his excellent track record in this tournament shows how his nerve stands up to the double start format better than the most. Ryan Searle comes into this event fresh from picking up his second Players' Championship title of the year. He's certainly no gimme, but his track record in majors hasn't been spectacular apart from a quarter-final run here in 2021. He suffered 3 first-round exits in 5 appearances. So I'm going for Gerwyn Price. I think Ryan Searle will give him a game. I think Gerwyn Price just gets over the line by two sets to 1. And then Luke Littler versus Gian Van Veen, possibly the match of the night. Luke Littler is chasing his first ever win at the World Grand Prix after his early exit on debut 12 months ago, losing out to Rob Cross, but he opens up against a player who has lost to 3 times out of 4 this season in Gian Van Veen. Since Littler's crushing 10-4 UK Open quarter-final triumph over Gian Van Veen with an average of 107 back in March, the young Dutchman has hit back with 2 victories on the European Tour and 1 in the Players' Championship event to underline his general star potential. Van Veen also has a 1-0 record at the World Grand Prix, has reached 4 finals this season, winning of them against Luke Humphries back in March, while his average of 97.48 since the start of July in all competitions puts him well inside the top 10 on the circuit. On top of that, his checkout percentage of almost 46% in this same period is third only to Damon Heta and Gary Anderson, so that kind of doubling is bound to come in handy in this format. He's getting more and more used to the pressures on the big stage, as we saw with 3 fine finals to the quarterfinals of the Grand Slam, UK Open, the World Match Play in the past 11 months. So he causes a big upset against Littler, then you wouldn't be surprised to see him venture into the latter stages. But let's not forget that Littler is the last person everyone else wants to face. The world champion is boosting an average of 101.50 since the start of July, which is 2 points higher than his nearest rival, Stephen Bunting. And in that time, he produced a string of stunning performances to win the World Match Play as well as 2 World Series titles. One of them, he averaged 115 in the final against Luke Humphries. An auto-focus Littler, it reminds me like Phil Taylor and Phil Taylor dominated for 2 decades. So Littler is even more dangerous than his usual. So I do think he will get that maiden victory in the match, which it promises plenty of 180s. If he can get 3 sets out of it, given that they're highly prolific maximum per leg rates, I'm going for Littler to win 2 sets to 1, but it won't be easy. Right, Michael van Gerwen against Dirk van Dijvenbode. Emotional Michael van Gerwen ending his 2-year wait for a big TV title at the World Series of Darts last month. And so Mayville, this could be the start of another resurgence in this remarkable career. It may not be regarded as a proper major, but he did have to defeat Luke Humphries, Josh Rock, and Luke Littler to do it, and let alone Rob Cross and Wessel Nyman earlier in the rounds. He's bounced back from difficult times before in 2022. When he won the World Match Play, the Premier League, the World Grand Prix and the Players' Championship finals following a lean patch in the COVID area, but this time he's got the two Lukes to deal with, and before we can think about winning this trophy for the 7th time, he's got a tricky opening assignment against fellow Dutchman Dirk van Dijvenbode, who has produced some impressive darts and spells this year. So he hasn't won the World Grand Prix match in 4 attempts since reaching the final on debut in 2020, but his heavy scoring will apply pressure on MVG. If he can get quickly on a consistent basis, I expected this to go the distance, but not for me. I think if Michael turns up, Michael wins. I'm going for to win like 2-0 just. Right, Peter Wright will face Mike De Decker. Mike De Decker is bidding to become the only third different players ever to defeat the World Grand Prix title. The fact he's priced at as a 66-1 outsider shows just how much he's struggled to contend for major honours since then. The rising Belgian star prevented Luke Humphries from joining Phil Taylor and Michael van Gerwen in that extremely elite club when sprinting a huge surprise, a huge upset in the 2024 final. Yet there's not many people banging the drum about his chances of lifting his trophy again. Expected Paul Nicholson in his Sporting Life column. Right, even he had fared pretty well defending this particular trophy. He has always been one of the hardest feats in darts. On a positive note, he has got one of the softer draws available in Peter Wright, who has been struggling to average in the 90s in recent months, so a winning start maybe ignited his belief again. So I'm going for De Decker to win by 2-0. Right, Josh Rock will face Ryan Joyce. This could be a potential banana skin. Josh Rock has no storage of backers to win his major title this week, but I fear he's the risk of an early exit at the hands of the player who dumped him out in round 1 last year. The Northern Irishman has been one of the revelations of the season, with a string of show-stopping performances that helped him reach the semi-finals of both the UK Open and the World Match Play, while he brilliantly won the World Cup of Darts alongside Daryl Gurney. He did overcome Prix 16-11 in Blackpool, with both players averaging over 100. He took a Hurley Cullen clean effort from Littler in the last 4, but to prevent him from reaching a landmark first major final. So there is no doubt all of stats points towards Rock overcoming this early obstacle, but Ryan Joyce must not be underestimated, particularly in this format. But Joyce has always been known for his lethal accuracy on double 16, boasted a starting double percentage of 51% during his run to the semi-finals 12 months ago, and he could have gone further had Humphries not delivered in one of the tournament's rare 100 plus averages against him. If Rock can't get away clean enough, then it could be a very uncomfortable night for him. I just don't see that happening. I think Josh Rock will get his revenge and win 2-0. That's my predictions then for day 2 for the World Grand Prix of Darts. Leave on your comments below, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye. Have a nice day.